Alright, so this is picture that I started and finished quite happily within 3 days. I was pretty proud of myself. Actually, I don't even think it was, yeah. No, actually, I think it might have only been 2 days. No, it was 3 days. Well, it was 2 or 3, and I'm happy with the speed in which I finished it, and happy with how it turned out. But these 3 characters are from a book series I read. It's like one book series in a big book series, if that makes sense. But these 3 are from the first set in the overall grouping, from the Song of the Lioness quartet. Sorry. But the sitting character is Alana, who's the main character of the quartet, and the figure that's traced in blue right now, not traced, drawn, is the Prince Jonathan, and then the green one is George, who is the Rogue King. But they both end up becoming very close to Alana and helping her along her journey of trying to become a knight. And that's what it's set in like a fantasy medieval sort of thing. Women aren't allowed to be knights, so she pretends to be a boy in order to become a knight. She kind of takes her brother's place because he wants to go off to this academy place to become a wizard. So she pretends to be Alan instead of Alana while she's there. She befriends the prince and all of his friends and hides her identity and meets George, and he helps her. He's the one that she goes to when she starts maturing as a woman. That interaction was pretty fun in the book. But I read these books back when I was 13, so that was about 10 years ago. And these books and the series that comes after them, so the Song of the Lioness and then the Immortal series, which is another quartet, really helped me get through some tougher times. My 13th and 14th year had some troubles going on. I won't bore you with the details. But yes, reading about these young, strong female characters that managed to get through these incredible odds really helped. And it was just, they were really well written, and the stories were just, I always have loved the fantasy, magic, knights and stuff. The cat that I put on Alana's shoulders is another character in the book. He shows up in the second book, but he's sort of like a familiar to one of the goddesses in the book, and he helps watch over Alana and tries to keep her from making stupid decisions. Keyword tries. Doesn't always succeed. But yeah, I mean, this I've reread the series several times, and it's never gotten old. It's a great series. It's one of those like that I would even recommend to boys. It is a good, it's a Knight's Tale. At least Alana's one is. There's a total of 4 series in the total that I know of. There's the Song of the Lioness Quartet, the Immortal series, the Protector of the Small Quartet, the Tricksters Duo. I call it the Tricksters Duo. There's only 2 books in that one. And then the Becca Cooper trilogy. I think those are so that's 5. But yeah, it's overall the Tortola series by Tamara Pierce, and I highly recommend them. They're really, really good. I think it's you normally find it in the teen section, I believe, if anyone's interested to find it. But when I was going through, I had a reference picture for Alana via the books I have, because she's on the covers, but I had no references at all for George and John. So I had to completely make up their design based on a small paragraph of their description that's given in the book. And their noses were somewhat difficult, because John's nose is described as being straight with a slight hook, and George's nose is said to be beaky and too large for his handsome face. So it's like, that was a little new. George's was a little bit easier simply because it is a side view, but I had some trouble with John's. I think I actually go back at one point after I finish coloring him and change it again. I might be remembering incorrectly, but it was kind of fun when I was coloring this, because it's got the red and the green and the blue, and all I could think was, power, wisdom, and courage from Legend of Zelda. I'm like, yeah, these colors don't really match the characters though. Cause, red I suppose does kind of match John with the power thing. He's a prince. He's not power hungry. None of them are power hungry in any way, really. But green would fit Alana better because of her courage. She's essentially breaking the law to become a knight. And does it quite well. And blue would probably fit George better. But just from the things that I remembered in the book, George tends to wear darker, more saturated greens and browns. And I had initially put the red and gold on John, because I had remembered, kind of flipped through the pages and remembered that the uniforms were red and gold, and then I remembered that that was Paige's uniform. So I changed John's outfit to blue to match his eyes and his magic color. We're going to ignore how much work I had to do to fix his hand. And then, even though Alana normally wears a blue shirt in the first two books, or at least she wears a blue shirt on the covers of the first two books, I changed it to the more gold-like color, just to represent more of the, because she becomes referred to as the Lioness, and in the last two books she does actually wear more goldish bronze colors. And I wanted the colors to stand out differently against each other. I wanted John's colors to be very bright, whereas George's colors were very saturated, and then Alana was supposed to be John was supposed to be very rich in color, Alana was supposed to be very bright in color, and George was supposed to be very saturated. Just to kind of show the differences. It worked better in my head. I didn't do too bad on executing it, I don't think. At least not with, George. I managed to get him looking pretty saturated in his clothes. But, yeah. Overall, I'm really happy with this. There is, one or two little things, excuse me, that could probably still be fixed. Like, John's hand is a little awkward on his sword. His sword that's not technically how a sword attaches to a belt. His hand is still annoying. George's foot still kind of bothers me. Alana's foot still kind of bothers me. But I'm really, really happy with my cat. I haven't actually drawn a cat in a long time. Like a year. So I'm really happy with my cat. His name in the book is Faithful. I kept calling it in my head, I kept calling him Pounce, because he also shows up in the Becca Cooper books, and she calls him Pounce in those books. in the Alana books, he's called Faithful, because he's very faithful to Alana. So, yes, I love these books, and they're great, and I highly recommend them. And it's about time I actually did proper fan art for them, because for how long ago I did read the books, I've never actually done fan art. I'll probably go through and do fan art for the other books series within the Tortol universe as well, just because I love all of the characters. All the stories are really great. Yeah, the second series, the Immortal series, follows Diane, I think is how her name is pronounced. No one in my family could agree how it's pronounced. But she finds out on her adventure that she has something called wild magic, which allows her to communicate and transform into animals, along with finding out a few other things about herself. And, you know, learning how to control it, and finding her place, essentially, because she's an orphan. So sad. But she also ends up having to take part in this war and help with that, and there's a bunch of other stuff that happens in that one. Then the Protector of the Small follows Keladrai, who's the first girl to take up the offer that allows girls to properly become knights without fear like Alana did. So it's her trying to prove herself to all of these men that know she's a girl and don't think she can do it. And then the Tricksters books follows Alana's daughter, and that's about what that is. So yeah, this is the final picture, and yes, see you next week. I talked a lot this time. Bye bye.